most important one, right?
That and pH right now, yes. Without chlorine, the pool's not going to be clear.
Okay.
So if you start to notice just a tiny bit of haze from it, that's the first thing that I would check, is it means you're probably getting a little bit low on the chlorine. So we've got the small tube, solid line, and then it tells us to add a DPD number 1 tablet. You've got 1s and 3s, so make sure it's a 1. And then we're just going to pop a tablet in the tube there. And we will turn that over. And I'll kind of use the back of that card because it's got a nice white blank. It tells you ideal 1.0. I always like to be around a 2. Okay, it gives you a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
We are probably a little bit higher than a 3 right now.
Color-wise.
Okay,
right.
color-wise. So that's it. The hardest part is kind of reading the colors.
Okay.
The more dark and vivid you're getting, the higher and higher you're getting off the scale. We're probably somewhere close to like a 5 or a 6. Okay? So what we'll want to do right now is I'm going to go, with us definitely not running 24 hours anymore, you're not going to be dissolving those chlorine sticks in the chlorinator anymore.
All right.
And so it's going to start to back off as just naturally by us turning off the amount of run time.
Okay.
But there's also a flow dial over there, and the amount of sticks can be adjusted. So for right now, you guys don't need to add any more chlorine. We're going to let it kind of start to come down. That'll definitely last probably throughout the next week.
Okay.
With the temperatures we've been getting at night, things have kind of been cooling down.
How does the rain affect all that?
It does. It does. I mean, a lot of it has to do with your drainage. So if it drains well, you're not getting a whole bunch of stuff getting pushed into the pool, like water runoff into the pool. That's a good thing. But it always will. Every pool is a little bit different. So sometimes they can get cloudy, especially if you don't have very much chlorine. So it'll all kind of be relative to where your chemicals are at and how heavy it is and what you get into the pool. So it's all a little bit different, but it dilutes and it does change the chemicals. So if you get a huge rain and you come out the next day and you see it a little bit cloudy, I wouldn't be hugely worried about it. It can be pretty normal, letting it run and kind of keeping up with it. It usually clears up in the next day or so.
All right.
So that's high. You don't have to be that high. I mean, do you guys notice anything over the weekend smell wise? Isn't that
It's really dry.
a little bit dry?
Yeah.
That's the kind of why that is.
Right.
So as that comes down, that'll kind of stop happening.
And the ideal level that we're looking for is
2.0.
2.0.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you want a really good, just a good solid pink, definitely not bright.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then so we will go to number 2. Number 1A is another problem altogether. And for purposes right now, I don't want to confuse you with that one. You would have an issue. You'd be either talking to Debbie, me, or Jeff anyways.
Okay.
So we don't need to worry about 1A. We'll go down to number
pH.
2 is the pH. And it tells us to fill the large vial to the solid line. Let's squeeze it here real quick. All right. And almost verbatim, it tells us to add 1.
Let me make sure I'm seeing where you're getting the reading.
So right at the solid line.
Right, but over here.
Yep, that's going to be the side over here. That's right, once we get the colors in. So give me just a second, we'll get all the drops in. It tells us on the card to add 1 of the number 4 solution.
Okay.
2 if our chlorine was above a 1.5.
Gotcha.
So we put 2 drops.
We're going to put 2 in.
That's what it says.
And then it tells us to add 5 drops of the number 2 solution.
I watched Jeff do this the other day and he did it so fast I was just like, whoa.
So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to shake that up.
So we're going to be chemists by the time.
That's right. And this hasn't changed in so long. As people are saying, oh, my dad had a pool that looks very similar. So that hasn't changed very much.
So we're
like
7.6 to 7.2. Okay.
Okay.
And so they added some, I'm sure, maybe, I think they said they checked on it Friday, did a little weekly on it. So you're dead where you want to be right now. With what we know about the pool, it's going to be raising on us. So I would probably check it in another 2 days just to see, and you'll get an idea of how fast it is going to start to rise on you.
Okay.
And adding the acid right now, I don't say we'd have to add any. But in a day or two, it might already be up to a 7.8. where you'll want to start to add some.
And how much acid would we be adding?
If you go, depending on where we're at, so you won't be really using much of the lower side.
Right.
But it gives you a chart for both. So if we were up at a 7/8, it'll tell you on here if pH is above a 7/8 to go to number 3. And then basically what it tells you to do is to add, I'll have you hold on, the number 3 dropper, one at a time, until we bring our color from the 7/8 down to the ideal range.
Okay.
So it's going to lighten it up tremendously.
And then you know by how many drops it takes,
That's right.
how much acid to put in?
It gives you a little chart here.
Based upon gallons?
Yep.
Okay.
That is raising pH. We don't want to do that. There's the lowering. So if it took us 3 drops to bring it down, at our 20,000 gallons, it's telling you 3 pints of muriatic acid.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And at the beginning, you could probably go by 1.5 instead of just 1. You can multiply it by 1.5.
Okay, because of losing the cement and stuff.
That's
also.
right. And
okay.
how fast it's raising on you.
Yeah.
You'd be adding 3 pints every 2 days just to keep up with it, instead of giving yourself a little bit of lead time.
Okay. And when can we expect that to stabilize? A couple months from now?
I'd say 6 months completely stabilized.
Okay.
As you go through each week, it's going to get less. You're going to add less and less and less.
All right.
Being like brand new, the first month is you'll probably add at least close to a half a gallon a week, if not a little bit more.
Okay.
As we get into it and adding it up.
All right.
But that's the exact color I like to see. If we keep it up and high, what's going to happen is you'll start to get a scaling on the plaster. Okay. If it stays high, it produces a scale.
Okay, and it won't eat it off like it needs to.
That's right. That's
won't
right.
remove it.
It won't remove it.
Okay.
So that's really the important part of keeping this down in that ideal range.
Okay.
All right. So you do have the other side, but you won't be using that
All
side.
right.
It'll be coming up on its own.
So how often right now should we be doing this test?
I would check at least for the pH test. I'd probably do that twice a week for
And
the
then
next
in
2 to
chlorine
3
level?
weeks. Chlorine just once.
Once a week.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then once everything stabilizes, you do each one once a week.
Yep.
Okay.
Until you kind of get to the winter time, and then you'll see that. I mean, if you could
Okay.
still do it once a week, but you'll see that everything kind of stays pretty even
Stabilizes
keel
from
when the water gets colder like that.
All right.
Sure. So we will. I'll put that back, and we'll go to number 4. Okay, because 3B is going to be the other side, the raising side of the pH test.
Okay.
So the 4th test is the alkalinity. It tells us to fill the large tube to the dotted alkalinity line.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I believe it says to add 1 of the number 4, and then 2 again if our chlorine was above a 1.5.
Okay.
So I will add 2. 1 of the number 5 solution. I'm about to drop that. Then it says to swirl that up, and we will also add the number 3, 1 at a time, counting the number of drops until the solution changes clear or yellow.
Okay.
And so I just go a few at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see it's kind of starting to get yellow. 7,
10 be the magic number?
8.
8.
Now I'll put one more in just to see if it does any kind of a color change. Not really.
Okay.
So we are right at 8.
Okay.
It tells you on the chart to multiply that by 10. So 80 parts per million is where we are for the alkalinity. And then it gives you another one of the charts in the book here. I've got my pen. Our range, 80 to 100 is right where we want to be.
Okay.
So we're right on the bottom end of that. If it's ever higher than the 10 drops or the 100 parts per million mark, it's because you probably added a little bit more than you were supposed to, and it'll come down on its own.
Okay.
Fresh water through time, you really don't have to add anything to bring it down unless it's just astronomically high. And it really won't ever be there unless you just add double or triple the amount that you need.
Okay.
Okay. If we're ever below our 80 mark, we want to bring the alkalinity level up. So if we changed at, say, 6 drops, which would be 60 parts per million, just to get to the base number, we would have to add 20 parts per million.
Okay.
At our 20,000 gallons, and it tells you about 6 pounds. The chemical is sodium bicarbonate, and basically baking soda. That's right. That's right. So what the alkalinity does, I mean, I'll just kind of read this to you, is the ability of water to resist change in pH. It's also known as a buffering capacity of water. So it works in conjunction with the pH to help stabilize it, so you don't get really
that's the same thing that the saltwater pool does, right?
It's very similar. Yes, very, very similar.
Okay.
Saltwater pools, they create, I mean, there's a misconception, you know, they use a salt to create a sanitizer, but it's a chlorine.
Yeah.
It's just different, a different type of chlorine. Usually salt system pools, you're having to add more muriatic acid to keep the pH down because you're not getting it with the harsh chlorine sticks have a higher pH.
Yeah.
And so you're almost bringing down your pH when you're using chlorine lots of times. Where salt, you don't get that.
So have to
you're having to add a little bit more most of the times. So we're very close there. I wouldn't say we'd have to add anything. We're right on that bottom line. Really, it stays pretty good. The more fresh water through either the autofill or rain we get, that's how that's going to dilute. And then you'll need to, to add to bring it back up.
All right.
But that'll help stabilize the pH. So if that was way off as well, the pH would be really changing on you, or it'd be super, super high.
Okay.
So those are the 3 main ones that you can do here. The last one is the cyanuric acid tablet. That's the one that I was telling you about, the stabilizer. I put that in to start off with, so that's something that you won't have to even be encountering for another six months or so.
Okay.
It'll be in there and it stays in the water. It'll dilute over time, but if you take it in every 2 months, she'll check all of those and let you know if it's still within the right range. Usually the chlorine sticks have stabilizer in them, so you're always kind of adding as you're diluting the chlorine sticks and the chlorine into the water as well.
So is she testing, when we take in, is she testing these also? Everything that
she'll
we
test those as well. Yes, yes.
Even
and
if
you
we
can
need it or not?
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she'll keep it. She'll start a chart and keep the exact measurements down. So it's always good to have prior reference of what the chemicals were like in case something something over here goes bad, or most of the chemical stuff that they won't do will be like a salt system, which you guys don't have.
Okay.
Heaters, if you buy a heater, the coils are usually copper, and they're very, very susceptible to chemical breakdown. So keeping the pH in the right range for a heater is very important. A lot of people will say, well, it's got a hole in it really quickly. You just send it back and they'll tell you it's chemical damage, nothing that they're going to warranty.
Right.
So, it'll help to have any kind of information written down and every 2 months just to have it there, as for your guys' records, for sure. So those are the main 3. That you'll want to do, and just testing it, kind of getting used to it, just going through it. If you guys want to give me a holler and say, hey, look, this is what I came up with on my test, I'll know whether you're way off base or not, if something went wrong during the test or not. But with the booklet, they're pretty self-explanatory as far as that's concerned. Just keeping up with them and understanding what they do, reading through this other pamphlet, it'll tell you about each one of them, as far as a little bit more in-depth, and that kind of definitely helps the basis of understanding what it's actually doing for you as well.
Okay.
But those 3, if you can keep up with those 3, everything will stay looking just like this, and you won't have a lot of issues.
So like 3 days from now, we should test.
I would check that pH
pH
for sure.
again.
And then if you want to get on a whatever your best schedule is for being able to do things, whether it's weekends or get it to that kind of a date, as far as when you typically want to test week in, week out, would be the perfect solution for that.
Okay.
Let me show you backwashing and kind of the system over here. I was hoping we were going to stop so I can label some of these pipes for you. Kind of the way some of these valves and things work.
I know what 2 of them are.
Yeah, this one we'll never have to change. That one's automated.
Yeah.
You'll never manually have to turn that one. This one will be what you can turn in between your pool main drain and the skimmers to help give you more suction to one place or another.
Okay.
The way this valve works is wherever the off is pointing towards is what you're going to be shutting off.
Okay.
Right now, there's nothing in this direction, nothing plumbed in. Everything is 100% wide open.
So we're running both pipes at that point.
Running both pipes suction-wise right now. You've got water coming in this way and this way.
So we're sucking off the bottom of the pool and the skimmers.
And the skimmers at the same time. That's going to be your normal operation.
All right.
You don't want the bottom with nothing because you don't have a stagnant body of water kind of sitting down there.
Yep.
If we're going to, with the pump on, it's fine to rotate the valve. If I want to rotate, I'll label it. I don't know which one's which. I'm going to go away from the pump with the off and towards the pipe that I want to shut off. Now I've cut off that suction from this pipe. 100% is coming from the other suction port now. So let me take a quick peek at the skimmer and see if we still have suction. No suction there. So we just turned off the skimmers.
Yep. Do we have to worry about UV breaking these pipes down at any point in time, or?
A lot of people say no. From my experience, the sun, I mean, not as far as breaking them down, but everything wears out a little bit quicker.
Right, because we were thinking about painting them.
Yes, painting them. I've seen a lot of people do it. You know, that's definitely an option for you. More than anything, I mean, if there's any kind of a way you can put